When in unfamiliar territory and unsure how to act, one naturally looks to the natives for an example of appropriate behavior. The same is true for new fathers. Jordan Harker reports on a Brigham Young University study that examines the way new dads look to their own role models for parenting skills.
A recent Brigham Young University study focuses on men who don't fit the traditional fatherly role. They're dads that are much like Chris Gardner from the film The Pursuit of Happiness, but before he made millions as a stockbroker. Dads in the study are poor, unmarried, and absent a role model. Dr. Renata Forsti, along with 2 graduate students from the Department of Sociology, refers to these men as fathers of fragile families and investigates the motivation for their parenting techniques.
If you're married, you have input from your spouse in helping you think about your role as a parent. If you come from a divorce situation, it's a very different dynamic. But these are young men who often started relationships when they were very young. They didn't have as many resources. They didn't have the education level. They didn't have the employment opportunities. Some of them had multiple kids with multiple partners. It's a much more complex kind of family situation. And so we were interested in what were some of the challenges.
John was not a part of the study, but as a single father of 2, he understands the difficulty and importance of involved parenting. His nephews also enjoy his company when they come to visit.
Fathering is, it's definitely a lot of work and a challenge. It's kind of hard to rate yourself as a dad. I know my dad was a wonderful dad, and I try to be like that in as many ways as possible. He would be involved with my friends. All my friends really liked my father and cared for my father. They knew that they could go to my father as a friend.
The study examines how the presence of a role model influences these fathers in their parenting role. Dr. Forsti and her team worked with an agency that services low-income families. The agency allowed them to interview over 30 men about the relationships they had with their fathers and other men in their lives.
And cats and kittens say, meow. You do that?
Most of them who lived with their father were close to their father. There were a few who lived with him, but their dad was abusive. But a lot of them also didn't live with their dad or didn't have a close relationship with their father at all. And so we were looking at who they looked to as role models, who taught them how to be a father. And a lot of these men talked about how they had a coach, or they had a scout leader, or they had the father of a friend. Some of them even talked about their mother. You know, my mother's the one that taught me how to go to work and took care of me and was the one that was responsible because my dad was off, you know, or gone or in prison or whatever.
The men in the study were categorized by the relationship they had with their fathers. Those who felt close to their fathers focused on being a nurturing parent by balancing both work and family time. Those who felt distant from their fathers focused more on just being the breadwinner. They know they don't want to be bad dads, but without a role model, these self-taught fathers are just trying not to fail.
It's one of those things that until you actually are a father, you don't experience that love. I remember when I first had Ethan, that's 5 now, I wondered what I did with all my selfish time and love before I had him. You know, you focus on yourself in so many ways until you have kids, and then it has to be all about the kids. I know that I would do anything for my kids, and that I spend as much time as possible. I love being with them. They're the most important thing in my life.
Many of them wanted to be good fathers but didn't know what to do. They often knew what they didn't want to do. They didn't want to do what their father did. Their father was an alcoholic, or their father was abusive, or their father wasn't in their lives, but they didn't necessarily know what to replace it with, how to be a good father. And some of them talked about how they wish they had a grandfather, somebody they could go to with questions, you know, wishing they knew how to help their child with their homework. And so, you know, your heart kind of went out to them with the struggles that they're dealing with.
A major implication of the study is that people, not books on parenting, are most influential and should make themselves more accessible. Reaching out through mentoring opportunities like coaching, scouts, church groups, or even being an involved neighbor can make drastic changes in the lives of many young men who are looking for examples on how to be a positive influence in their kids' lives. Jordan Harker, BYU Weekly.